I could be anything but for the faults that I've acquired on my way. We were the end of it, but now we see the sun shining in our face. We see the sun shining in our face. So come on, we can be saved. The lives we live, the wars we wage, when everyone just tells us how to feel, we're sleeping at the wheel.
Chapter 7. Blaine leans back in his desk chair after reading Kurt's latest email, feeling content, like he's kind of made a friend. He shoots off a quick reply and is so proud of himself for not overthinking every little thing he writes. In a matter of 5 days and just over a dozen emails, he feels like he knows this person, this Kurt, better than he, by all rights, should. He feels a little out of control, the way he's just talking and confessing, showing various sides of himself, his obsession with game shows and The Sims. And it seems like Kurt actually kind of likes him. Not likes him. He knows the odds of that happening are slim, and Kurt's probably not even gay. He definitely never meant to talk about his dad. It wasn't a bad fight, certainly not their worst, and Blaine feels like he came out of it the winner simply because he argued back for once. He was an active participant rather than just a sounding board for his father's anger. Things are going to come to a head with them this summer. Blaine can feel it. He tries not to think about it too much and instead focuses back on his new friend Kurt. Blaine likes this a lot, having someone to talk to about things every day, even if they're mostly little things. He knows he could text Matt or whatever, but his summer job already started and they're on completely different schedules. Blaine just didn't expect to find this camaraderie on an online class, particularly considering he doesn't usually seek out camaraderie in class face-to-face. Falling asleep later that night, he can't help but wonder if this is the Kurt. Or was it Craig? Or Kirby? The face. But he writes that off as fantasy. He's not even sure if he heard the name right. A moment of Kurt. Maybe if he makes a list of the things he knows about Blaine Anderson, he'll realize that he's making his feelings up in his head. It's just such a bad idea to feel attracted to someone after sending them a couple emails. He has hardly any concrete knowledge of this person. A list of what Kurt knows about Blaine. 1. He is a dork. 2. He fights with his dad. 3. He likes to run long distances. 4. He's level-headed. 5. He might be a shut-in. 6. He likes to read. That's it. That's all Kurt knows. That's not enough to base attraction on. He doesn't even know if the guy is gay. On the other hand, that's not really all Kurt knows. He knows Blaine's funny and intelligent and likes kids enough to want to be a camp counselor. He fights for the underdog. He's compassionate and earnest in his opinions, though he can snark with the best of them. The best of them being Kurt, obviously. Blaine? He hears his father call his name from the bottom of the stairs. That means one of two things. Either it's time for dinner, or Blaine's in trouble. Considering they already ate, Blaine is pretty sure this isn't good. He might as well get this over with. It's been over a week of emailing and chatting online with Kurt, and it's already becoming a ritual to sit back and watch their classmates discuss the latest book. The discussion opens tonight for a heartbreaking work of staggering genius, and Blaine is looking forward to seeing what they think. And he's looking forward to talking to Kurt. A lot. He doesn't want an argument or discussion with his father getting in the way of his evening. He walks slowly down the stairs, hoping that if he prepares himself, this might not be so bad, whatever it is. He takes deep, easy breaths like Paula always tells him to. As he lands on the last step, he's sort of relaxed, probably as close to relaxed as he ever is in his parents' house. He's going to try to focus on the small victories, he tells himself. That's a mantra that he and Paula used to talk about. He hasn't thought about it in a long time, but he thinks he's going to need it right now. "We're in the kitchen," his mother says. The fact that his mother is involved makes him feel better. He's about to walk into the kitchen the way he normally would. Shoulders hunched, head bowed, hands stuffed in his pockets, body language that just screams, "I surrender!" When he realizes he doesn't have to surrender. He doesn't even know what they want yet. Why is he surrendering? He takes another deep breath and lifts his chin. He walks into the kitchen with his head held high. Small victories, that's one. His parents are sitting at the table with mugs before them. His mom offers him some tea, but he declines and takes the chair across from her. "Too hot for tea," he says with a smile. A little shiver of happiness goes through him that he said something, rather than just shaking his head. "That's two." "Blaine, I was telling your father about your plans." At his mother's words, his father looks at Blaine almost appraisingly. Blaine nods, unsure of what he should say. He's not sure where this is going, and he's trying to remain neutral for now. "I'm not sure if education is really a fit for you, Blaine. We're just trying to be honest with you and reasonable about your limitations. We worry about your ability to succeed in a career that requires as much communication as teaching does," his father says. His mom reaches to touch his father's arm and says, with a bite in her voice, "I'd prefer you didn't say we. I'm pretty sure I've made myself clear on this. I think Blaine should do what he wants, and I think we should help him any way we can." His mother's already on his side. That's three. His father looks displeased, to say the least. But Blaine is still feeling okay. He's not on the brink of panic with this conversation. He hasn't had to participate much yet, but so far so good. "What do you have to say for yourself, Blaine?" his father asks. "Since when am I on trial?" he questions softly, but his gaze stays with his father. He knows that if he speaks quietly, he might stutter less. "Oh, Bud, you're not on trial," his mom sighs. "Kind of feels like it. I like music, and I like kids, and I think I could do this," Blaine insists, voice gaining volume. "I know you like music, Blaine, but you've never even performed in front of people," his father says. "You've never even tested yourself." "Yes, I have. I play open mic nights with Matt. We do it all the time. I've even done solos." Blaine is so happy he can tell them this. That's four. Is all his father responds to that. "And so, what if I fail?" Blaine feels suddenly exasperated. Not angry, not yet. Annoyed, put out, frustrated. "What does it matter to you if I fail? It's my failure, my disappointment. You don't have to have anything to do with it." That's five. "I think your father worries that it's going to be too much," his mother says. She's not taking her husband's side, just acting as a mediator. She hopes Blaine can sense that. Blaine looks away from both of them then. He can feel his expression darken, his nostrils flaring. What do they know? How on earth would they ever know how he feels at this moment? How is it any of their business? Sure, now his father worries. What about all those years, Blaine's whole life, when he was just as bad as the bullies at school? One of the few people who should have really understood how Blaine felt was one of his worst tormentors. The small loser voice in his head tells them that they just care. He shouldn't be so mad. They just know his limitations. They're just being reasonable and giving him sound advice. He can't talk in front of people. He's never even spoken at open mic night. No one even knows his name there because Matt's always making names up, and Blaine can't find his voice to correct him. And suddenly, the small loser voice in his head and the Blaine he's meant to be are speaking in unison. I'm tired of not really being me. I'm tired of being just some kid with a stutter. Overtaking the small loser voice? That's 6. I've worked so hard at trying to be invisible and to appease everyone, and I'm just tired of it. I know what I want. I want to be me, Blaine. Not hide behind what I can and can't say, he exclaims. His name with no trace of a stutter? That should count for 2. That's 7 and 8. Almost yelling, definitely the closest he's ever gotten to yelling at his parents. Probably the loudest he's ever been outside of growls and frustration into his pillow. You don't think I've ever been disappointed in myself? You think that stuttering in front of a classroom is the worst thing I can imagine? It's not. At least maybe someone in that classroom would listen to me. Maybe they'd actually hear me. Blaine can feel the tears in his eyes start prickling. He's going to lose his momentum. He rises from his seat, hoping he can flee if he needs to, before he gets too emotional. I don't understand why you have to get down on me before I even start. Before I even try. Isn't it better to try? Blaine says, hating the defeat in his voice, the way it cracked on try. He can feel his father looking at him, but he needs to avert his eyes for a few more seconds to gain his composure, to put his mask back on. I think that's the most I've heard you say in 10 years, his father says, his voice holding just a small hint of something. Wonder? Blaine isn't sure. That's 9, though. He made his father listen. He shrugs, allowing his shoulders to fall just a little lower when they come back down, relaxing a bit. I just want to try. And it would be easier with your... He pauses, but not because he's blocked, but because he wants to find the perfect word. He's not avoiding. That's 10. He just wants to accurately express himself for once. Support. He's looking at his father, not lowering his gaze, wanting him to see that Blaine means this. He's not going to acquiesce, not this easily. His father looks away first. It's then that he looks at his mother for the first time during the whole exchange. She's crying. She's crying and smiling, the tips of her fingers touching her lips. Then she comes around the table to hug him. Blaine feels lighter, even under the weight of her hug. That's not a small victory. That's everything he's ever wanted. He knows this isn't over, this war with his parents, and it can't be until he's completely honest with them, until he finally comes out to them. But for now, he'll chalk this battle up as a victory. Chapter 8. June 26th at 8:16 p.m. Kurt. I'm here. I'm just invisible because I don't want to talk to my stepbrother. Blaine. Family troubles? Kurt. No, nothing like that. He's just a terrible typer and I'm not in the mood. Blaine. Lol. Kurt. How are you? Blaine. How's it going? Kurt. I'll start. I'm peachy. Blaine. With a side of keen? Kurt. You know it. Now, you? Blaine. I'm tired of children. I hate when they're mean to each other. It's like, you're 5 years old. How can you be so mean already? How can you be that jaded? Kurt. SMH. Kids these days. Blaine. Faux show. Kurt. You're so gangster, Blaine. You and your dork flag. And your passion for game shows. Blaine. I'm keeping it real. Not letting the haters get me down. Kurt. My roommate is a psychopath. Blaine. That was scary. Did she delete your Sims again? Kurt. No, she was just reading over my shoulder. That's what you get, biatch. Blaine. Huh. Is she just your friend/roommate? Or like girlfriend/roommate? I've been meaning to ask. Kurt. Oh, Rachel? Lol. Yeah, just friends. I thought you knew. Then I'm gay. At 8:44 p.m. Blaine. Oh. Kurt. I mean, I work at Teen Vogue, and I like it. Blaine. Kurt. Are you not okay with that? I really thought you knew. I guess I never said it. At 8:50 p.m. Blaine. I am too. Gay, too. Kurt. Oh! Then you're probably not a homophobe, as I was starting to think when you were silent for so long. Blaine. No, I'm not a homophobe. That would be bad. Not to mention antithetical, and really awkward for everyone involved. Kurt. Good. At 9:01 p.m. Blaine. Yes, quite. Do you have a boyfriend? Kurt. Are you asking me out, Blaine? Some kind of weird long-distance, online-only relationship? Based on our mutual appreciation of dorkiness? At 9:09 p.m. Blaine. Oh, I didn't, mean it like that. Just wondering. NBD. Not hitting on you. Kurt. It's okay, Blaine. Teasing. I wish there was a font for teasing. Blaine. That would make life easier. Kurt. But alas, no boyfriend. I was dating someone for a while. Almost a year. But in the end, we just didn't see eye to eye. Blaine. So you're saying he was too short for you? Kurt. Yes, he was too short. Why do I honestly believe you're making that face right now? Blaine. Because I am. I'm that kid your mom warned you about. When she was like, don't make that face or it'll stick. Well, I made that face, Kurt. And now I'm stuck forever in the mask of an overly bright smile. It's awkward during sad movies and funerals. Kurt. You are the most ridiculous person I've ever met in an online class over the summer that has a very level head. Blaine. It's most useful on roller coasters. Thanks for that. Kurt. Anytime. So are you seeing anyone? At 9:21. Blaine. Me? No. Sort of embarrassing. I've never had a boyfriend. Kurt. That's not embarrassing. I've only really had the one in college, and I sort of dated a guy in high school, but it was weird, and mostly unhealthy looking back on it. He may have been a sociopath. Blaine. I don't know whether to be intrigued or scared. Kurt. I would say both. It was just one of those weird things. There were no other out kids at my school, and there were bullies, and I met a guy at the local coffee place. Sebastian, his name is, and he was the only out guy I'd ever met. Blaine. Kurt. What? Blaine. Nothing. I just felt like I needed to say/write something so that you wouldn't think I wandered away from the computer. Kurt. Oh, okay. Anyway, it wasn't a great relationship, but it was something. I guess something I needed? Like I needed to act on being gay, which sounds sort of dumb now. You're either gay or you're not, whether you hook up with guys or not. Blaine. Actually, I think I totally understand. I was humiliatingly inexperienced when I got to college, and the first time I kissed a guy, I felt better, owning my sexuality or something. Kurt. Yes, that's it. That makes sense. Blaine. So, whatever happened with Sebastian? Kurt. It was high school. We went to my senior prom together, made out in cars, blackmailed one of the football players that used to harass me. Blaine. Really? Kurt. Yes. That didn't go very well, though. He, the football player, ended up coming out, and I just felt like an asshole. Like I forced him to. Which I didn't, because I had no idea that he was gay. But it still kind of felt like I made him. I felt really bad. I still kind of feel bad. Come to think of it, this was all terrible stuff to tell you. Makes me sound like a really awful person. Blaine. Nah, I think we all do stuff that we're not proud of. That's what happens sometimes. At 9:59 p.m. Kurt. I feel like you need to tell me something you're not proud of, Blaine. I mean, if it's not too personal. Oh, forget it, that was jerky. Why do you continue to talk to me? I'm just gonna go crawl in this hole over here, something. At 10:06 p.m. Blaine. Kurt, calm down. Kurt. Okay, calm. Blaine. I think it's fair to ask. The give and take. I think that's part of the fun of this, at least for me. Kurt. This weird little thing we have going on. Blaine. Yes, our peculiar institution. Kurt. Isn't that a euphemism for slavery? Blaine. Oh, you're right. Oops. Sorry about that. Anyway. At 10:19 p.m. Kurt. Blaine? At 10:25. Blaine. I'm working on it. I want to say it right. I guess I'm not proud of how I'm not always myself. Kurt. Question mark? Blaine. I mean, I'm here, sitting next to you in cyberspace. But I'm not really like this. At all in real life. I'm actually really shy. I would have never talked to you in class. You would say all this funny stuff. I would have sat there, paralyzed with fear of saying something wrong, so I wouldn't have said anything at all. Which I know is stupid, but it's just how I am. And you would just think I was the weirdo who never laughed or made eye contact. Kurt. I doubt that. Blaine. And every day after class, I'd go home and think of 30 things I could have said and didn't. It's true. Kurt. I'm sure you would have warmed up to me by now. Blaine. Maybe. But I still wouldn't have been this confident or verbose, and probably would have eventually decided to try to talk to the person on the other side of you, and just written me off as a lost cause. Kurt. You don't know that. Blaine. But maybe that's what would have happened. Kurt. Maybe. Thanks for the share, Blaine. Blaine. Anytime, Kurt. Good shares all around tonight. At 11:02 p.m. Blaine. Mother of Pearl! How did it get so late? Kurt. Mother of Pearl? Blaine. Yes, I'm trying to cut back on swearing. I almost said the F word in front of a dozen 5-year-olds the other day. I would imagine such language would be a near fireable offense at a summer camp. I've also taken to saying cheese on a cracker. Kurt. Can you please give an example of how one would use that phrase? Blaine. It's kind of like son of a B word. Kurt. Ah, yes, of course. That makes perfect sense. Keep me posted on these fascinating new phrases that are peppering your vocabulary. Blaine. I will, for sure. I guess I should go to bed. Kurt. Yeah, those kids need guidance, and only a rested counselor can truly offer that. One who is not a potty mouth. Blaine. Those kids are bitches. Sorry, those kids are B words. I had no idea I could ever feel that way about small children. It makes me wonder if I really want to be a teacher. Kurt. I didn't know you wanted to be a teacher. That's cute. Blaine. Thank you. Kindly explain that to my father. Kurt. Issues? Blaine. Some, no big deal. My mom is helping me with it. Kurt. I'm here whenever you need to talk. Honestly. Or have my cell number. Call or text or whatever. 419-555-7298. Blaine. I'm not much of a phone talker, but good to have anyway. In case I need to shoot you a very important text about my Sims. Who, BT Dubs, got married today? Kurt. Congrats to them. At 11:21 p.m. Blaine. Honestly, Kurt, thanks. This is nice. Kurt. I agree. At 11:29 p.m. Blaine. Alright, I really should go. Those kids won't reprimand themselves. Kurt. No, they will not. Blaine. Oh, I don't know if you'll care, but I won't be around this weekend. If you look for me online or whatever. I'm going to meet my roommate Matt in Akron for a concert. Kurt. Matt? Blaine. Yeah, why? Kurt. Nothing. I didn't know your roommate's name. Blaine. Oh, okay. Anyway, just so you know. Kurt, thanks for the heads up. I will try not to miss you too much, and I'll send Dee Marshall your love. Blaine, don't you dare. Kurt, I'll tell her that you agree with her that the Kite Runner would have been cooler if it took place in America. Blaine, she is obviously never finishing any of the books. The end of the book is in America. So frustrating. And it's such a good book. Why wouldn't she finish it? Kurt, go to sleep, Blaine. Blaine, okay. Good night, Kurt. Kurt, good night. Have fun at your concert. Blaine, thanks. Blaine signed off at 11:50 p.m. A moment of Kurt. Who is this wonderful boy that I've stumbled upon? And who on earth just sent me a text? 11:52 p.m. Unknown number. Guess who this is? No, really! Where did he come from? Chapter 9. If Blaine didn't feel completely out of control before, he does now. He's never, ever just let himself talk like that before. Not even to Paula, or type like that, as it's not actually speaking. Basically, he's never expressed himself via any medium with that much earnestness and candor. For most of the conversation he just had with Kurt, his hands were shaking and his stomach was in a free fall. He told Kurt he's shy. That's a really big deal to Blaine. Unfortunately, he's well aware that he wasn't completely honest, which is a vicious cycle because the whole reason he brought up his shyness in the first place was to illustrate that he's not proud that he's always himself. And promptly, he wasn't honest about himself. On the one hand, Blaine is shy. On the other hand, that's certainly not his biggest obstacle. If he really wanted to be honest with Kurt, he would have told him about his stutter. He would have told him why he's shy. His eyes are crossing, just trying to reason this out. He should make a flowchart or something. Blaine sometimes thinks about a world where he doesn't stutter. It's hard to imagine not being nervous and holding back when opening his mouth. He always assumed he would still be reserved, introverted. But when he looks at the emails he sends Kurt and their IM conversations, he wonders if that might be closer to the real thing. The real Blaine that he yearns to be. There's a few things about the conversations that immediately jump out at Blaine. He's not suave or cool, but he's funny, he's quick, and he has an excellent vocabulary. In real life, he's often hurriedly trying to substitute words. Half of the time when he speaks, his sentences are just barely what he means to say because he's substituting words half-assedly, grasping for any word that sort of fits what he means to say. But with Kurt, online, he's different. He's still nervous, but it's more like wanting to say the right thing and impress Kurt rather than being nervous about saying something, period. It's weird that they've barely known each other for even a month yet. Even weirder that they don't actually know each other in real life. Blaine still wonders if he's the face, but every time that thought goes through his head, he berates himself. Life is not a fairy tale, B. His inner voice often sounds like Cooper these days. A moment from Blaine's boss. Maggie Coleman has been running Camp Sunnyside since the early 1980s. She's hired many camp counselors over the years. She's probably passed on hiring 5 times as many. Maggie is very relieved she didn't pass up hiring Blaine Anderson. Upon first meeting him, she may have had some reservations about hiring a camp counselor who stuttered. Her gut reaction was that it was a bad idea. She worried that he wouldn't be able to handle the children or take charge. She worried that the children might not listen to him or behave for him, maybe sensing a weakness because he sounded different than other people. She was very, very wrong. Watching this young man interact with children is a pleasure. If only all the counselors cared the way Blaine does. He requested to work with the youngest campers, which is by no means easy. She worried that he wouldn't know what he was getting himself into. Such a wide-eyed kid who told her so sincerely, so earnestly during his interview that he really wants to teach music or maybe kindergarten. Every day he impresses her, though. She sees him crouch down to the campers' level when they cry, break up arguments with only a stern look at the offending pair, and fix up scraped knees with the most gentle hands. She's never, in her 33 years of running this camp, seen a 19-year-old like Blaine Anderson. Even just a week into the season, Maggie's looking forward to handing him a reference letter at the end of August and offering him an open-ended job for every summer henceforth. She can see that he has such potential. She's so happy she didn't go with her gut this time. Blaine likes his job. He really does. But certain days are just hell. He loves the kids and almost fits in with the other counselors. They think he's a kiss-ass because he actually gets in the pool with his campers during free swim and because he sits with the kids at lunch rather than shooting the breeze in clusters like the rest of the counselors do. He's here for the kids, not to make friends. Truth be told, he heard a couple of the other counselors laugh at his stutter on the first day. During lunch, a group of them waved him over. He was nervous. A lot of his tics started in, blinking, fist clenching, and when he tried to introduce himself, not much came out of his mouth. He took a deep breath and smiled and tried again. It's been a long time since he was in this position, blushing, blinking, and blocking. All of the blah words. He did eventually get his name out, and he tried to think of some small talk about the weather. Yeah, I hope it won't be this hot all summer, he said, smile still on his face, eyes anywhere but making eye contact with anyone else. He excused himself after that, saying he wanted to check on the kids and see if they needed anything. As he walked away, he heard one of the guys say, "Sa, sa, sa, sa." He only got one laugh. Everyone else told him to shut up. But Blaine felt ostracized from the group after that, so he avoided them. Throughout the summer, there were a couple of the counselors who would invite him out sometimes, to bars or the movies or to dinner. But he didn't have a fake ID, and he'd rather go to the movies by himself, and he couldn't imagine trying to sit through dinner with relative strangers. He would always say no, and they would tease him, mostly good-naturedly. About a week into the summer, he briefly considered quitting. It was a terrible, terrible day. Two of his teeny-tiny campers had gotten into a serious fight, like a punching and hair-pulling fight. He had to bodily drag them apart. He's not even sure what happened. Then one of his other kids peed in the pool and another threw up in the changing room. It was just terrible. But at the end of the day, right before the kids were getting picked up, one of the boys, Teddy, or the urinator, as Blaine would always think of him from that day on, came up next to Blaine and gave him a hug. He looked up at Blaine, middle teeth missing, mouth in a wide smile. "Thank you for being my friend," Teddy said. "Thank you for being my friend," Blaine replied as he put an arm around Teddy's back. "I'm sorry I peed in the pool." "It's all good, little man. These things happen. Nobody's mad, okay?" Blaine reassures the boy. "Okay." Teddy bounds away as his mom pulls up to the curb. He waves at Blaine as he hops up into the car, and Blaine feels warm. Someone else approaches him from the side. It's the camp director, Maggie. She's a seriously intimidating woman. She's the kind of woman that goes home and has a scotch and a steak cooked rare every night for dinner. Blaine heard that she was in the Navy. He does his best not to cower. "I've been watching you with those kids, Blaine," Maggie starts. "I'm very impressed. If you need anything from me, do not hesitate to ask." Blaine feels that warmth again and smiles and says, Yes, ma'am." He nods and waves as he makes his way to the staff lot. He's definitely not going to quit. A few weeks after his terrible, horrible, no good, rotten day, Blaine gets home from work and finds that he has an abundance of emails. One from Matt, one from Kurt, and about 1,000,000 alerts for this week's discussion thread on Angela's ashes. He decides to open Matt's email first, just to hold the suspense a little longer. "To Blaine, from Matt. Date, Wednesday, July 9th, 11:37 p.m. Subject, hot dudes on the internet. If you're reading this email, you should know that I lied about the hot dudes. I just wanted to get your attention. Do you have my guitar strap? The one I bought at that weird fireworks depot / Mexican cantina / t-shirt emporium in Pennsylvania over spring break? I can't find it anywhere. Either you stole it, I left it somewhere, or my little brother is hiding it from me. I could tickle the information out of him, but I thought I'd ask you first. Don't be jelly, Blaine. I would tickle the information out of you, too, if we were in the same state. To Matt, from Blaine. Date, Thursday, July 10th, 5:51 p.m. Subject, response, hot dudes on the internet. How dare you accuse me? Fine, I have it. It got mixed in with my belt collection. That time I wore it as a belt. That was a weird night. To Blaine, from Kurt. Date, Thursday, July 10th, 12:42 p.m. Subject, I can't even with her. D. Marshall at 9:43 a.m. I just really don't think the character of Angela is so great. Why does everyone think she's so great? I mean, it's not really even about her. It's about her kids. It should be called Frank's Ashes. I saw this and exclaimed, Mother of Pearl! Which is completely your fault. You and your sanitized camp counselor cursing. You've ruined me. Who let this girl into college? How in the holy hamburger? Sanitized! You've sanitized me! Did she get into New York University? I'm fuming. What the F? Which stands for what the fudge, because you've taken all the joy out of swearing. I can't even swear properly anymore, Blaine. You suck. I said it. D. Marshall sucks. She does! I've had 4 espressos. I rolled over my toe earlier, and I yelled, cheese on a cracker. What does that even mean, Blaine? What does that even mean? And everyone in the office looked at me like I was the crazy one. To Kurt, from Blaine. Date, Thursday, July 10th, 6:02 p.m. Subject, lay off the crack pipe, sir. Dearest Kurt, lovely to hear from you today. I particularly enjoyed the humorous anecdote you divulged about your school chums. A truly marvelous tale, woven with such an eye for detail. Their opinions seem not only sound and intelligent, but somewhat lyrical in quality. We must speak again soon. Sincerely, Blaine Anderson. P.S. Cheese on a cracker, Kurt. P.S. Funky cheese on a funky cracker. P.P.P.S. I've ruined swearing for you because misery loves company. P.P.P.P.P.P.S. Mwah! To Blaine, from Kurt. Date, Thursday, July 10th, 6:05 p.m. Subject, response, lay off the crack pipe, sir. Step away from the flippant thesaurus and meet me on IM, you bird brain. To Blaine, from Matt. Date, Thursday, July 10th, 6:13 p.m. Subject, response, hot dudes on the internet. You own exactly 1 belt, which may or may not be my guitar strap. To call it a belt collection is a bit of an overstatement, don't you think? Someday, Blaney boy, you and I are going to send normal emails to each other, and on that day, I will weep. Speaking of hot dudes, what's going on with your internet friend?